You can hear it.
Yeah.
You always find the fucked up songs, Lee. God damn it.
No, it's cool. It's.
Yeah, that was
I
a little
love this
slower.
version.
You like the
Yeah,
slower version?
I grew up playing this version. Yeah, but and I really love the feel of it because this is like a '70s vibe, which is what I grew up playing. You know, '70s music. You know, so it's got that really classic rock vibe to it. So by the time we re-recorded the song, the record company wanted it more modern. So, you know, it has all these more of an 80s feel to it, but still is an awesome blues song.
So what should I search for the newer version?
You just go Slip of the Tongue or Steve Vai. It's Steve Vai, Full for Your Loving, because Steve played guitar on that one.
On the microphone, Mr. Rudy Sarzo, the legendary Rudy Sarzo. Lee Syatt, what's happening, you bad
buddy.
motherfucker?
I think I have it. You want me to play it?
Yeah, just little differences. We're just fucking around. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Now, did you do everything over? The vocals, everything?
Oh, everything, yeah,
Okay.
from scratch. Yeah.
I was born on the bad side, left out in the cold.
Fuck it. Good enough for me. Little shout out, little love for Stevie Vai. He's going
Steve
through some
Vai,
hard
love
times
Stevie,
right
man.
now. Right? He's going through a cancer right now. So.
Steve Vai? No.
Somebody's got cancer. I thought it was Stevie Vai. Maybe I'm wrong.
No.
But if he is,
I hope not. I mean,
yeah, I just want to wish him good luck.
He's a
and,
dear friend, you know, and you know he really takes great care of himself. He's a vegetarian, vegan. As a matter of fact, when we were playing together in Whitesnake, he turned me on, and I was a vegetarian for 5 or 6 years. You know, he turned me on into not, you know, food combining or not combining foods. You know, for in the morning just having juice and not combining your carbs with your proteins. You know, so your food digests better and stuff like that. So. He really takes care of himself, you know, more than anybody I know.
So maybe it's not him. I'm happy you're not a vegan no more. Cubans are not vegans. You know what I'm saying? They try to slow it down a little bit. Like when a Cuban gets a heart attack, he'll switch it to turkey meat. Like I'll switch to fucking picadillo to turkey meat, but that's as bad as I get. That's as fuck that shit. What's up, Lisa? How was your weekend, buddy?
It was good. You know what I'm doing a lot now? I've been on a diet for for like 6 months. And my girlfriend and I are getting sick of it. But I've lived in LA for like 4 years, and I've never really left the valley. Like, other than working down in Santa Monica, I never left. So we took the train down to Japantown, or Little Tokyo, in downtown. We walked for like 20 minutes. We found this like revolving sushi bar, like the place that it goes around on the conveyor belt. We walked around there. We went to a couple Japanese bakeries and stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Something different. You gotta get out of the valley sometimes.
Because I've lived here for years, and I've seen like less than 1% of LA. So it was fun doing that.
You get stale. I get stale. I get really stale. That's why I like fucking around and going to Long Beach for a laugh factor. Because I'll sit. I was just telling these guys that I'll sit at home not to lose a fucking parking spot. Like if it's between me losing this parking spot or me I'll stay home and. Especially like Tuesdays and Thursdays, those motherfuckers double up on my block. Once you leave, I don't even know where these cars come from. It's like they pop from the ground up or some shit.
Right. Well, I when I didn't have a parking spot at my place, I would never ever leave. I don't know how you do it sometimes.
I don't know how the fuck I do it. But I had a great weekend. I went to Portland, Oregon.
How was it?
Fucking shows were great, man. I gotta tell you, I lived in the Pacific Northwest, and it's always had this little cool feeling to it, the Pacific Northwest. You know? Portland has really got it down. You know what Portland reminds me of? The old Houston comedy scene. Like that people were involved in it. Like the people went to bars and spoke about the guy performing. They didn't know his name. Just go down there and watch him. Portland has that feel to it. They don't need to know who you are or what TV show you're on or none of that bullshit that comes with comedy. We heard you were funny. We're going to come down here and check you out. You know, everybody brought me reefer and joints and fucking some guy brought the Russian kid brought blueberry cake that was just brown from the THC, and I gave it out to the staff on Friday night, and everybody got ripped. I came the next day, and the manager's like, "You can't be giving that shit out to my workers here," because the one girl was on the floor sleeping back there. So it was.
Did you ever hear from the convenience store worker who you gave the gummy to? You gave the Gumis Hermanos gummy to like this poor lady.
Oh no, I haven't gone over there. I haven't gone over there to the spot. I'll go over there. Tomorrow I got to meet somebody there for coffee, so I'll see you then. But it was just a great weekend. I really like Portland, and I want to thank everybody who came out. I want to thank Lisa, who left me a little present for my daughter. She left me a beautiful little like princess dress and a cute little shirt. And I want to always thank Greg and Lynn for always they dropped off some edibles and whatnot. So it was pretty nice.
Well, it's really cool. Our guest is Rudy Sarzo, and you guys were talking before about Vegas. It must be really cool when you're like, you guys travel for a living.
For a living.
And it must be really cool.
But I don't travel. Rudy travel. Rudy got some freaking motherfucking flyer miles, Jack.
But you get to go to like different cities and like go there a lot and get to know people, and it must be fun.
You know, it depends on the band. Like when I was playing with Blue Oyster Cult, that was the last band that I was doing a lot of weekends. You know, which actually do make sense in today's climate, musical climate. The fact that if you can play Thursday through Sunday and go home on Monday and fly back out again on Thursday, you're fine. Because if you're going to be playing Tuesday to Wednesday, they're going to be shitholes. There's those gigs that you're just doing because because if you don't play, you're going to be on the road, staying in hotels. There's going to be a tour bus to pay for. There's going to be the crew to pay for. So you just want it's like a shark. You got to keep it moving. So so a band is the same thing. So if you take too many days off on the road, you start losing money. So my preferred way of touring, unless it's like a real high-end type of band, is actually just to do weekends, because that those are the prime gigs. Those are the B A market and or B market, and actually the B market is what I consider now playing casinos, because when you go into a small town, all of a sudden you realize that there's a casino right down the street, and it's actually one of the best gigs out there.
Do you do the same location for the entire weekend, or do you go into an area and go like an hour away each day?
No, I've actually done those. The residence.
Okay.
I had a gig in Las Vegas about 5 years ago. It was called Monster Circus. On the we were right after Barry Manilow on that Elvis theater, at the Hilton, and I loved it. I loved it because you just get up there and you're staying at the hotel, you fly in. Again, it was one of those weekend things. It was like from Thursday until Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I think, Saturday or Sunday was the, 4 shows a week. And the rest are just go home and, have a normal life.
How is touring? I was looking at you and I'm going, Jesus, I'm going to ask Rudy, how has touring changed in 20 years? Fuck it. I saw Rudy 31 years ago.
Yeah.
You saw him play?
Yeah, 31 maybe, right? 83?
Well, actually, my
83?
first tour was in 81, so that's like 33
81.
years ago.
81 I saw. Whenever they came to April to the Palladium.
Which
the
band?
big show. Ozzy.
Oh, Ozzy.
That's the first time I
that was
saw
81.
It.
You played with
81.
Ozzy?
Yeah.
Who have you played with? Because it's so far
Quiet
you've said
Riot,
White
Ozzy
Snake,
Osbourne,
Ozzy.
Whitesnake. Oh my God.
Dio. And Blue Oyster Cult that I just mentioned, and
who were you recently?
Yeah, the Jeff Tate version of Queen's Riot.
Queen's Riot. Okay.
Yeah.
It's so funny that how has it changed in 33 years? Like when you first started with Quiet Riot, let's say, and Quiet Riot opened for Ozzy Quiet Riot opened for somebody for a while. Did they not?
Oh God, we open up for everybody from ZZ Top to Scorpions to Iron Maiden to Loverboy, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest.
Now, in those days, did you have a wife?
No, that was 83, so I got married in 84.
So 81, how was touring then? You toured every fucking... Because I remember, like, looking at a band schedule. Like, for me, they would do Philadelphia on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Newark on Thursday. And then shoot into New York on Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
But I also know that there was no, like... fucking Sunday through Thursday off. You guys were right back at it.
We were always on the road.
Always.
There was a circuit that you played the A markets, like where you're talking about the Philadelphias and the New York City and
Houston.
Houston, But then we had the B markets, which were towns that had hockey arenas, or B market, like the minor league hockey arenas. Those were great venues, and so we would do all of those. And it was great because we were really never off. And you really don't want a night off. 33 years ago, having a night off meant that you were going to wind up, the next day with a huge hangover because there's nothing to do. 33 years ago, you check into a Holiday Inn, It was a home box office, which really was a box.
It was a box with a roll, with a string on
With
it,
a-
and the 3 levels. And
and you have basically HBO and whatever channels they had, local channels. That was it. That was your entertainment. So our Facebook was actually going down to the bar, to meet the fans and the crew and the other band that we were touring with. That was our social networking, was going down to the bar. So it meant that you wind up the whole night drinking, and that really affects you after a while, being on the road. So, we had all those distractions. We don't have that anymore. We can actually be very creative because we have all the technology available to us. The same technology that allows our music to be stolen gives us the freedom to create more. Isn't that ironic?
It's really ironic. Yeah. But it's weird how I used to see those schedules. Like, how has touring changed? I mean, even with me, when I went on the road 15 years ago, I went on the road with one thing in mind: to do jokes and to get high, to get fucked up. I didn't know when I was coming back. Yeah, I had a plane ticket for Sunday at 3 in the afternoon, but I didn't know if I was going to make that plane or not, because I was going deep on Saturday night. I was going deep on Friday night. It didn't matter to me if I got a movie. It didn't matter. And now, Jesus Christ, I'm to the fucking dime. Like, I'm to the dime. Like, I got to be on they're picking me up at 4:15 Thursday morning. I'm in bed at 8 o'clock Wednesday night. Yeah. I get off the plane, I go, whatever, at 2 to Philadelphia, I take a shower, I relax. Where in the old days, I would go right out. I would just throw my clothes in the fucking room and shoot out to do something that had no meaning. No meaning. Till 6:30, and I go home, take a shower, and go to the show, and I wonder why I'd bomb. Why did you bomb? Because you haven't relaxed. Your mind hasn't stopped. You haven't taken a minute for yourself. I go out that night, get fucked up, and that's the whole weekend. There was no creativity. It was just doing the shows. I didn't even look at a notebook. I wouldn't even bring a notebook with me.
How could you continue with your career bombing?
It was a 50-50 shot every night. It was a 50-50 shot, and it didn't matter because after the show I was going to get fucked up and get my dick sucked. So the bombing didn't really... I was bombing... This was my mentality then. I was bombing in a place where it didn't matter. I was trying out a new joke. I wouldn't go prepared. It was just a horrible... But then I got better and better. I got better about it, and I would bring a notebook and stuff, and some nights I would write coked up. Like, I would actually get coked up and write or make believe I was writing. It really was a disaster. But I still made progress. Or in my mind, I thought I made progress. I started headlining. Obviously, they started headlining me. I didn't take it. The addiction was the whole thing. To get away from, at the time, my girlfriend, because I couldn't get high around her. Not that stopped me. But it was just to get away from her, to go and get high. I remember I used to do 2 weeks in Texas. From 2003 to 2006 or 2002, the club owner would headline me over the holidays. And I would do 2 weeks. Every night, Rudy. Every night. I remember the other day, a Cold Case was on. You know that show, Cold Case, that was on for a while, and I'm on one of the episodes. I shot that on the Monday after the holidays. You know that 2-week break you have?
Yeah.
Like, I had to shoot that like January 4th.
Oh.
And I came back that January 3rd. I wish you guys looked that episode up and see how big I am. I had to be 420. That's when I was walking around at like 410. But after those 2 weeks, I was just, you could see it. You couldn't even see my eyes from the bloating, from being bloated, from all the eating salt, eating restaurant food, French fries, not taking care of myself. And now it's completely different, Rudy. Now it's completely different.
I got a question for you because, I used to play with Sam Kinison. We shared the same management. I played on his records. We became friends. I went to a lot of his gigs. And what he used to do was at the end of the show, he would bring out a band.
Right.
Most of his buddies, kind of like an all-star band. And we would do Wild Thing. I actually played on that record, and I was on the video. And I remember him going out on stage really messed up. I mean, like, drunk and, coke. And he would bomb. But people would still show up.
It was crazy.
Maybe it was like to see a train wreck or something.
It's like the same thing. Who's the chick that died 2 years ago? I don't want to go to rehab.
Amy Winehouse.
Oh, yeah,
At the end, you knew the bitch was either going to cancel, be fucked up, sing a song and give you the finger and leave. People still paid the $120 to go see it.
Yeah.
Well,
People love a train wreck.
Is it different with bands? Because with comedy, it's only you talking. So like, would it be easier to tell if you were messed up?
Oh, please, yes.
And then, but I would imagine being fucked up messes with you playing music. It must.
Oh yeah, you can't play and be screwed up. No, it's impossible. Especially if you're playing some quality music. You know, I mean, I can tell you because I experienced that. I mean, there was a show in Kansas City one time. I was playing with Ozzy, and Ozzy used to like take B12 shots. Right? So the promoter could only find a dentist that would come to administer the B12 shots backstage. You know, so the guy goes over to me on the side right before I was going on stage and say, "Hey, you want a bump?" And you have, remember the old days, those little
bottles,
yeah, the little carburetors. It was like what do you call those? It was like a little bullet.
Oh, and you turned the thing around and then you turned it around again.
It like,
like a little bullet.
Right.
Yeah.
So I go, yeah, what the hell? He's a doctor. You know, it must be someone like, you know, really good, you know, prescription, you know, cocaine, I guess, you know. So I did it. It was the only time that I've ever did it, you know, with Ozzy going on stage. And I'm telling you, I spent half the show, I just wanted to like not die.
It's terrible.
It is awful.
It's
so
terrible.
worse.
I would, with all these problems I had, I did have one piece of thing that kept me together. March 17th, 1992, I got on stage coked up. I never got on stage coked up ever again.
Why do you remember the date?
Because I bombed that bad.
Oh,
it was two different. I thought that, wait a second, if I do 2 lines, I'm going to get chatty. And I'm going to go up there and just chit-chat. I'm going to be fucking great. Nobody's figured this out yet. Richard Pryor figured it out, Sam Kennison got it, and now I got it. And I went on stage because the cocaine cuts your heart from your material. It cuts it. That's why you can't be funny. Yeah, you'll get away with some jokes. There's some jerk-offs that laugh. But you don't sell the joke. The joke isn't being sold. It's just like reading a book. So he went out and he, whatever. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
I could tell if I did too much coke the night before, it would affect my stand-up. Even if I didn't do coke the whole day, it would affect my stand-up. I couldn't control my mind.
Was it like a hangover?
Yeah, it was like a hangover, but it was like a mental. You can't. Your heart and your mind aren't connecting. Your mouth and your heart and your soul are not connecting. It's very weird to explain.
See, in addition to affecting your physically, I mean your emotions, it affects your body. It's like it affects the blood flow to your ears. So you start to hear more bass than treble. And if you're on stage and somebody's doing blow, they're going to start turning around and saying that you're playing way too loud, where you're just playing at the same volume as you always play, right? And there's certain records that if you go back in the 70s and you listen to them and the bottom is gone, it means that they spend the night mixing those records, and to overcompensate, they lower the bass, the bottom end of the record, so it sounds like sizzling, like psst, a lot of highs. They were on blow when they were mixing that, and a lot of records were mixed like that back in the 70s because you had a deadline. You had to you spend so much time recording it, and the record company says, listen, we're coming back tomorrow to pick up the record, the mix record, and then they'll take it and master it and then release it. So a lot of these guys were under the gun. Because if you're going to do a mix a night, it's going to take you 2 weeks to do it. And sometimes you just didn't have 2 weeks. You would have maybe 1 week. So you're trying to compensate by just staying up long enough to do 2 mixes a day.
Like those, I just read on YouTube about a month ago, they had a campaign about Volume 4, the album, Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
And what the whole part of it was that the first 4 Black Sabbath albums, I guess, were recorded in one night. Mm-hmm. Like the first one night, the second one night. I don't know how true it is, whatever they were saying. How does that happen? How do you fucking go into a I mean, I always wanted to be a musician.
Easy.
Because don't you have to, all right, so let's say Snowblind. All right, Rudy, we're doing Snowblind.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. First of all, we don't even do it together.
Yeah.
You lay the bass first.
Oh, no.
How do you do it?
Not like that.
Back
in the day, a lot of the bands would go on the road and they would do all of these. They played everywhere. Back in the day, you start your tour like in Stockholm or somewhere in Scandinavia, and you do like a Scandinavian tour, which means that you're testing your material to go in the studio in a couple of weeks, right? So you do all these tours to get the band tight and get paid for it. That was like pre-production, and then you go in the studio, and then you do like 1 or 2 takes of each song, and you're done. You're done. Like in the days when people used to record in the same room with a really good engineer that knew how to mic everything, and yeah, that's the way it used to be done.
No, lay your track.
No.
Lay your bass line. And
No.
So, like, I read the one Aerosmith book, the one from '98, when they talked about how much they hated each other, and in '75. So, Joe Perry would go down and do the guitar. Like, they had to sign a sheet. They all lived in the same house, but they had to sign a sheet to go into the recording studio one at a time. They wouldn't get along. So everybody, the drummer went. So did you play the song first, and everybody left, and then you redid your bass lines, and he did his guitar? Was that how it was done? Because I'm fucking confused here. I'm blown away.
Listen, all the like if you read about the Beatles, they that first record they did with George Martin, they actually did that in one day. They did, So it was like 14 songs, 15 songs, because in America we would get 10 songs per album, but in the UK release it was actually the full record, the 15 songs or whatever they happened to record, and I think that what happened was in America, engineers and producers they either started getting picky or lazy. Because the guys back in Europe, in England, all those English engineers and producers, they had it down. They knew. I mean, I worked with some of those guys, and they don't look, it got so bad that you had to spend one day just to get a snare sound back in the 70s. If you were going into to make a record, it was a given that the first day was just drums, and you would spend most of the day just getting a stupid snare sound. Come on, just put. If you know what you're doing, you just put maybe 3 mics. The best setups I've ever played with, just 3 mics. One on the kick, one on the snare, one overhead, and that's it. Most of the classic rock records we listen to, that's the way that they were recorded. And then either direct or both. You amp you put a mic on the bass amp and direct, and then you get isolation rooms. All the studios were designed like that, so you isolate your amplifiers. Or in the case of like where the Stones used to record, they did Exile on Main Street in a house that Keith Richards rented in the south of France. And they took the basement and they just make baffles to separate the amplifiers, and that's how they did it, and those are classic albums. They have a vibe. They have soul to it. We were talking about the soul in your material when you're delivering it. That's what's missing when you start separating people. And, one guy, I do a lot of records nowadays in my pajamas at home with my little dog watching me because they send me the tracks. Are they going to be timeless records? No. To me, a timeless record, everybody has to be in the same room to record that.
Is it like a feeling? Is it like kind of like the room has when the band's playing together? Is it
right now we're experiencing it. Okay, you and I, we did a podcast. It's way different this one because I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. We're communicating in the same room. It's not like me at home with my telephone, my cell phone, talking to you, calling in. Okay, yeah, it was good, but it doesn't have that intimacy that we're having now.
It's amazing. We were talking about a band, how you have so many different personalities to deal with, and you were saying how lucky I was because when you do comedy, it's just you and the microphone. You just got to show up at a bar, plug it in, and fuck it, you go crazy. Yeah. For a guy like me, when I was growing up, I read all those magazines. I read Circus, and I read about recording sessions, and my dick used to get hard. Like just, the Stones going to Jamaica. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Everybody going to Jamaica for 2 months, whether we like each other or not. We got a big bag of reefer. We fucking get a couple black chicks, and we start, whatever. To me, that was phenomenal. Exile on Main Street. Now, what happened with Exile? Wasn't somebody owed money? Didn't somebody owe money? That's why they were hiding. That's why they were in France. Somebody was looked for. Either Keith Richards was looking. Somebody was looking for somebody.
You know, I mean, there's a documentary about it, and they touch on it lightly because it was basically a documentary, elementary documentary. If you got Netflix, you can watch it on that. It was basically about the making of the record, but you know, it was they were tax.
Right, tax. It was tax.
Yeah, tax. Because in England, if you made a certain amount of money, if you stayed in the country, you had to pay so much taxes. So if you make the record somewhere else, you know, you're not going to be hit with all those taxes. Yeah.
Do you prefer working solo or with a group? Because I've worked with a few comedians, and comedians don't really tour that much together. Some of them do, but not really. It's like a single person. I would imagine with a 5 or 6 person group.
Yeah. Comedy is more like boxing.
Yeah.
It's only with 2 guys in the ring at the time. You know, it's a men on, you know, one-on-one. You know, a band is really a team sport.
But how often does it go bad? Like, how often do people hate each other and fight about money?
How many teams? Name a sport. I mean, is there any happy team? No, of course not. I mean, there's something going on. Because everybody, we were talking about this. That's the crazy factor. You have to be crazy to do what you do, Joey. I mean, it's, you know.
I've always known it. I spoke to my wife
crazy.
about it last night. We were talking about something, and she goes, "Is that person Joey Diaz crazy? Or the other crazy?" And I go, "Joey Diaz crazy. He's crazy, but he's not like hearing voices and shooting people." And
I mean,
like
you know, to be crazy doesn't mean to be evil.
Right. No.
It's just
crazy.
like outside of the box. You know, you're doing, you got dreams and you just go for them. You know, no, you're not going to listen to everybody else telling you, oh no, because you're whatever you are, you're never going to make it and whatever. So you leave town because you want to get away from these people, and you wind up wherever you think all the opportunities are. To me, it was LA, you know, because the record companies were here, and all the musicians that thought like-minded were here. So I joined a band, and I slept on the floor, and I did all this crazy shit, you know, that if I look back at it now and go, oh my God, how did I have the balls to do all of that? But I did, you know. And again, if you lose that edge, that craziness, you're in trouble, because you're not gonna move forward. You're not going to progress. It's the craziness that will keep you going forward, getting better, getting crazier.
I always thought when I got off drugs that my comedy was going to be done. That was one of the reasons towards the end I didn't want to get off the blow, nothing. And then I thought about it, and I was like, wait a second. I was always fucking crazy. I just went to Miami, and I saw people, they were holding Los Santos Mio for 35 years. They held a bunch of my stuff. T-shirts and trophies, and I went down there and I started talking to her, and I said, you know, I was going to your house on 148th Street, and she goes, when I first met you, she goes, when you called, I started thinking about you, you know, and how our evolution, you know, she was 18 and I was 6 when I met my godmother's daughter. We all got back together, and I used to go to 148th Street, and she goes, you were a quiet fucking kid. She goes, you built models. She goes, you had 1 million fucking models. She goes, you would lock yourself in a room and put on music and build models all fucking day. 10 hours, 3-4 models in a day. It was brilliant. You paint them and like this. I don't remember. I really don't remember like a little thing.
Really?
And she goes, but then you got hit in the head with that lunchbox. And that was the beginning of the end. She goes, not that the lunchbox made you crazy. You just didn't like it. It brought the real inside of you out. You were scared, you were timid, you didn't know the language. She goes, but once they hit you in the head with that lunchbox that day, everything changed. She goes, you became aggressive, you got stitches, and even in the hospital. I remember you told us that night at dinner at your mother's bar, you said, this will never happen to me again. Nobody will ever hit me in the fucking head with a lunchbox. In fact, I'm going to hunt them down tomorrow. And they all looked at me like, Jose Antonio, you can't go hunting these kids down in Central Park. And I went to Central Park by myself. And then when I moved to Jersey, I was so insecure about being Cuban that the first day I went out, there was a fight. And I knew for me to get through to these guys, I had to jump in that fight and stick up for this kid that was getting beat up by himself. As crazy as it was, he was 1 kid against 8. That's as crazy. Bruce Lee can't do that shit. But in the back of my mind, I knew for me to get into this neighborhood. I had just come from New York City, where there was a couple Spanish people, there's Puerto Ricans, you know, whatever in the neighborhood. I was moving to North Bergen, New Jersey in 1960, 1970. There's not too many Spanish people. They were in Union City. They were that way, and they were in West New York. They weren't in North Bergen. So that I lived in that house for a year before I went out. Do you know that? A year I lived in that house. I would always go to my mother's bar in Union City. I wouldn't go play with the kids in the neighborhood. And my mom would tell me, "Oye, calabaza, calabaza, todo mundo va. You gotta go. You gotta go play." And one day I left with my white clothes on because I used to dress them. You know, my mom used to dress me in white with the white sneakers with a gold chain. And I went around the corner. I heard them yelling and screaming, and I jumped in and backed that kid. And my life I never looked back. I always had to follow that mentality. I always had to be fucking nuts. But what people didn't know was that I wasn't trying to be nuts. I really was fucking nuts. You know, it just came to me natural. And then as I got older, I got the Cuban in me. And I worked very hard to get that Cuban man out of me. The jealousy, the quick reaction, the hand. My hand would come up first. I wouldn't even give a fuck. I'd come flying through a window. I worked hard to get that out of my system. Like, I really had to work hard to get the cubanismo, what do you call it? The cubanazo out of your system. Yeah. Because it was going to take me down. It still takes me down. That's why I avoid a lot of different situations. You know, we're going to have Steve Byrne on the podcast here in a couple of weeks. And he called me this year to ask me if I wanted to do his show. And I thanked him because I go, the last time I saw you, I was very crazy. I went at somebody at the Comedy Store. And as they were breaking us up, I remember looking, and it was Steve Byrne, and looking at his face going, holy fuck, this guy's nuts. And my anger wasn't towards Steve Byrne. But him seeing me in that situation always made me very embarrassed in front of Steve Byrne. I never wanted to see Steve Byrne again. If he wouldn't have called me, I wouldn't have been his friend anymore because he saw me. It's like the night I stuck up for Marilyn. My friend died, and somebody kept torturing her when she was alive, this fucking producer from L.A. And at the wake, he showed up to the wake. He had the balls to show up for the wake. You know me, dog. That's my fucking realm. I'm from the world that I would die. If you're going to come, how you going to bust somebody's balls when they're alive, then walk into his wake? Not when I'm alive. Not on my fucking clock. And I went off, and that reputation followed me in L.A. People don't mess with me because I went off. I made the guy leave. I told him, I'm going to get off the stage. And when I got off the stage, I'm going to go at you, your attorney, and your wife. And I meant it. I didn't care. In my world, where I come from, I'm fucking nuts. But I work very hard. For people don't see that, I work very hard. I avoid a lot of contact with people. I already know this. I knew this at 30. I knew when I got out of prison that was one thing for me to do what I was doing as a comedian, that I had to calm that down and that's why I avoid it. I avoid it, number one. Number two, when something happens, I attack that situation right off the bat so it doesn't eat away at me. Can't eat away at me because if I let it eat away, and I see you, then it's going to be bad for you. It's going to be really fucking bad for you. So I can't let it eat away on me. I really can't. I get fucking hot. So I got to call you at your house and go, hey, dog, this is the situation. And if you hang up on me, then I'm going to go to your house and light it on fire. That's how crazy I am. That's how fucking nuts I am. And it's just, I don't want to hit nobody. I just don't want nobody going to eat. I'm from old school. You don't even, my favorite line in The Godfather is, they should have stopped Hitler in Munich. If they would have stopped in Munich, we wouldn't have had this fucking problem. And that's why I go crazy. And I've worked very hard to eliminate that from my life, to eliminate that, whatever. So that's the craziness I have. But it's a thin line. It's the same craziness that fueled me to keep doing what I do. Because my thing that fuels me is I'm proving a fucking point to you. I'm proving a point that when we went and told people that we were going to be comedians, they told me I was a felon. They told me I was too old. They told me it was too hard. They told me 1,000 reasons why. But I believed in myself. And I also believed that if they knew about my life and who I was inside, it would help me. And that craziness is what keeps me waking up every morning to prove my point, that anybody could do what the fuck I do. Everybody tells you can't do this. You put limitations on yourself. This morning I got in the car. I was going to go to jiu-jitsu. And in the car this morning, I was talking myself out of it, Rudy. Talking myself out of it. But then that Cuban voice that says "Vete a cingar" and all those bad words came, and I fucking shot down to Beverly Hills. So that crazy, you're right. That crazy is what brought the conversation up was we had lunch one day, and you had said to me that in the music business, there's a thin line between mental health and the artist. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing in comedy. I mean, you're right. What makes somebody get up and say, I'm going to fucking live 3 or 4 years in this life of sleeping in floors? You know, and everybody's done it. If you listen to Guns N' Roses, Slash, Aerosmith, everybody's fucking paid their price, but you got to eat a bug one day. You got to eat a Coke snot. That's it. That's all there is.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But you know what? Like you, I know you, and I used to hang out with Sam Kinison and a bunch of other
Jimmy Schubert, who did this show.
Jimmy Schubert, and comedians, and all you guys, as crazy as you are, you guys are the nicest people, most generous people I've ever known. Sam was out of his mind generous. I mean, like beyond. I mean, it was like embarrassing generous. Type of a guy. So it's again going back to being crazy. It's not about being evil.
No,
it's
not
about
at all.
not knowing any boundaries.
No boundaries.
Who
gives a fuck?
You're limitless to what you really want to achieve in life.
Now, were you there the night that Sam and Billy Idol went on it?
Oh God, I was on stage.
What happened? What the fuck happened?
Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. It's very simple. Sam was, used to do 2 shows a night. So on the first show, he hadn't gone to sleep for about 2 or 3 days. So we were up his suite. Lenny Bruce's mom was there because she always hung out with Sam. And and the whole gang, the
Carla Bow, Lenny Clark, Mitchell Walters,
Alan Steffen, all of the Jimmy Schubert, all those guys. And so Sam used to bring on stage Sabrina and Malika, who became his wife, and Sabrina was his sister-in-law, right? And they would be dressed like showgirls. Las Vegas showgirls outfits with the feathers, because they used to be showgirls before they met. So we're on stage playing Wild Thing, the song. And Billy Idol is there, and he's on stage doing his Billy Idol thing, and he starts grabbing Malika and Sam, which has he went nuts, So we get off the stage, go back up to his suite, and he's like throwing shit around, and he's just like going insane, saying, next time on the next set, I'm gonna fucking deck up, on stage, all of that. So second show comes around, and he does his comedy, and then we do our song, and Billy was gone, but his sidekick was there. So Sam just decked his friend because he couldn't get to Billy. And that's what happened. Caesar's Palace.
That must have been fucking. Listen, the reason why I got into comedy was after I read the Lenny Bruce book. Mm-hmm. I was wafering. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was leaning towards comedy, but once I read Ladies and Gentlemen, I knew it was for me. And when I was seeing all that, when I was watching Sam go crazy, and I knew he had the outlaws and the craziness and the fucking hotels and the crashing cars, that was another part that lured me to this craziness. It really is craziness. When you were there, when you were part of this, were you looking around saying to yourself, this is just insane? This guy's a comic.
Yeah, it was
playing fucking music, and
it was more insane than any musician I ever been around. Yeah. It was beyond rock and roll. It was comedian crazy. Richard Pryor stuff, it was level, it wasn't, And you're talking to a guy who was in the same band with Ozzy. I played with Ozzy, but no, Sam Kinison was more crazy than Ozzy. Yeah.
I can't even imagine that shit.
Yeah.
This morning I was driving, and they were talking about the Pink Floyd album, the new Pink Floyd album. Did you hear it yet? I haven't listened to it. But the beauty of it was that 2 weeks ago, that fuck Roger Waters came up and said, I have nothing to do with this album, And you have, in a band, you have these 4 people, and there's always this one little ego that floats around, but he controls it or he doesn't. To me, these egos destroy the music business with their craziness. One is Roger Waters. I don't know. I've never met David Gilmour. I don't know how crazy he is or the rest of the guys. I don't know what happened, but I know When I think of Crazy Ego, I think of Roger Waters and I think of Sting. As much as I love Sting and as much as I love the Police, you know. What happened? I mean, do you know? I mean, how the fuck does this happen?
No.
That your importance, because when I was thinking about like Sting, for example, like, so you're that important that you're gonna break up this band and take away from us fans for your ego. The same thing with Roger Waters. And then the fucking guy goes, I don't know what David Gilmour says. I don't know. He goes to release this album, and Roger Waters says, I have nothing to do with this album. It's just an album of instrumentals, right? I don't even know if you know about it. Doesn't fucking matter.
It's just, people like that is just, I have never heard what the voices in their heads are saying or what they sound like. So it's kind of hard for me to put myself in that
position.
Because there's going to be some crazy motherfuckers going on in his head telling them shit.
Well, it's kind of what I was asking earlier. Like, if you were in a band, maybe not you, but don't you think a comedian, since they're always by themselves, like if you were suddenly in a band with a group of people, don't you think that ego would the same thing would happen? I'm surprised it doesn't happen more.
I don't know.
I got a question for you. Do you consider yourself an artist?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Because that's the problem with musicians. Or most of them who consider this is art, what I'm doing. And I'm not doing it to please the audience. I'm doing to please my artistic intentions or vision. Do you ever go on stage like that?
No. No, never. That's why I don't like the word artist as much as it's used, especially in this town, especially in life. I'm an artist. So for me, when you say you're an artist, that means you got a trust fund. And your parents send you money every month, and you get to try different shit every month. Yeah. That's what you're telling me. When somebody says artist, my ears always go up. And I look over at a coffee shop, because that's where I hear that
that's
word.
You just mentioned, when I think of an artist, I think of Van Gogh.
Right.
He sold one painting to his brother in his lifetime and cut his ear off.
Right. No, I think of, if somebody refers to themselves as that, but I get the art, and I get that what I'm doing is an art. Mm-hmm. And because of that, maybe I'm an artist. Mm-hmm. Because stand-up is set-up, punchline, joke-telling, and storytelling. I take that and I mix it around. That's the art. Yeah. When you learn to play the bass.
But we learn to play instruments so we can deliver a message. And a message, there's a structure just like you have in your storytelling.
Right.
It's the same thing with a song. There's a structure to it. So there's definitely an art to being a comedian, because you're telling a story, you're putting people in a state of hopefully happiness when you tell your jokes, and from the moment there's a middle, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to your act. So there's an artistry to it, just like being a musician. But I don't think you take it as seriously as a lot of these guys.
No. No, I consider art like the first instrument I ever played was the bass. Mm-hmm. I learned the pastoral music. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the bass because it was boring as fuck until I watched you play it. Mm-hmm. Then I wanted to go sign up again. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
That's what I call an artist. Your interpretation of what I just showed you. There's 1,000 front kicks. There's 1,000 front kicks, but the way you throw it, that's your art.
Well, it's because I went to a lot of shows in Miami, and I saw Miami was a unique place to play back in the 70s, because it was either the beginning of your tour or the end of the tour, because logistically, a lot of the bands that came from England, Europe and England, would come in and bring their equipment through the port, Fort Lauderdale, Miami port. That's how they brought their gear. So they would either begin the tour there and they would rehearse at the Sportatorium for a week. And, so you either saw the first show, which was really not the best of their tour, or you saw the last show, that traditionally a last show with English bands, they used to pull all these gags on each other. They would throw whipped cream and get hit with eggs during the set and stuff like that. So either ways, you were going to see a pretty shitty show, because it was going to be the first show or the last show of the set. So I saw a lot of boring performances from a lot of guys that were really high, because Plus, in addition to that, was the drug capital of the world at that time in the 70s, you know. So they were like high on blow, heroin, or booze, or all of them at the same time. So I said, you know what? I never want to be one of these guys. You know, the guys that just stood up there and just they were basically like, you know, mannequins on stage,
Right.
you know, playing because they were so high. Not because they were bad, but they were just so high at the time. Yeah. So that's why.
It's fucking crazy. See, for a long time, I thought they started a lot of tours in Philly. For years, I would look at the schedules and I would see tours starting in Philly, and I thought it was because Philly's such a rough place to play. You want to get it out of the fucking way. That's what I always thought. I didn't know why, because I seen the Stones in Philly, and it was the first night of their tour, and I seen AC/DC at the Palladium, and it was the second night of their tour, and they started in Philly. So I'm like, oh, I never even thought fucking bands played in Miami and shit.
How hard is it to tour? Because I've been lucky enough to go with Joey for a couple weekends, and I'm not even performing, but leaving on Thursday morning, coming back Sunday morning, I know I'm exhausted. Like, I can't imagine doing a month on a bus going to radio. Do you do radio, or are you just sleeping all day and then doing the show? Like, what's it like?
It all depends the quality of people that you're touring with as human beings. If you can really have fun and really respect, and vice versa, they respect you, you could have the worst. You could be playing the worst shitholes. But if you really love the people and really love the music, it doesn't really matter what the conditions are. I've been in some great traveling conditions with some tours and people that I would just wish and couldn't wait for it to be over, just because, you know, to me the most important thing is the quality of the people that you're touring with, really not the accommodations.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. What was the most fun you had on the tour? No drugs, just fucking guys getting together and jamming and, you know,
it's nothing has come close to the significance of the Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman tour with Randy and Ozzy. Well, actually both, you know. Yeah, and Tommy. Yeah, every night on stage was the Super Bowl, every single night. The quality, and of course, you know, we had the tragedy happen to us. I would say second would definitely be either Whitesnake or Dio, because I really love touring with Ronnie. Ronnie was, my God, incredible.
Was he really from New Jersey?
No, Cortland, New York, upstate New York.
Upstate New York.
Yeah.
But he lived in New Jersey or something. Somebody said they saw him once in New Jersey. I'm like, come on. I'm like,
yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, because after Rainbow, he came back to the U.S. and lived in the Northeast, you know, and then he moved back to L.A. when he then started Black Sabbath. All of a sudden, you know, after that.
It's funny because you talk about the Super Bowl or whatever, but on the other side of that, I still remember buying a Cream magazine and reading how Black Sabbath had just broken up, and it was fucking traumatizing. Like, it was just traumatizing. I couldn't even think. Like, yeah, I like Led Zeppelin. Then once the drummer from Led Zeppelin died, there was a point where I was just lost. You know, my mother had just died. The music and the reefer was everything, and all of a sudden, you know, Black Sabbath broke up, and I'm reading this Cream magazine in February, freezing my ass off that they broke up, and all of a sudden, John Lennon gets shot. You know, and I go to Bleecker Bob's in the city, this fucking tremendous record store, and I find this EP by the Blizzard of Oz, and it's 4 songs maybe, you know.
81, yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck? And listen to me, and I'm telling you guys, this is, and I know the people I went with, I could call them right now and have them call in. You know, this was everything to us.
Well, you probably got the UK pressing.
The UK first. I got the 4 songs first.
That was in 1980, because
that was,
in 81, that's when they actually released
Blizzard
in the States.
So it was, John Lennon got shot December 8th or something.
December.
So it was December or whatever when I went to the city. They were doing something at Strawberry Fields, whatever. I didn't go that way. I went into the Village. In fact, what did I go see? No, it was a different year. I went to the Village and I got that EP. I just found it by mistake. It wasn't that I was looking for it or I knew about it. And then in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, is a place called Things from England. They're still... Steve Lang. They're still there.
Yeah.
In fact, you've seen it. It's next to Rudy's.
Oh, okay.
Rudy. It's up the block.
Well, the guy who owned the place, Steve Lang, he passed away a few years ago. But
Really?
it was a really good friend of my brother Robert and me.
He's still open.
Yeah, it's
It's
still open. Yeah. Things from England.
I think
yeah.
that's where I bought the Ozzy tickets. That's where I would buy everything because he always used to buy a block for himself.
Yeah.
So he'd tell you, if you're in a bind, come open. I'll try to hook you up. I know friends.
Great guy.
Great guy.
Great
This
guy,
is
Steve.
fucking
Yeah,
crazy
yeah, great guy.
that I just said that. Things from England. I bought so many things there. I bought so many like UK releases there. You know, as a child, like anything from UFO. I bought tons of shit, even if it's $20 more than the regular album. I tell them to put it away to the side. There was no fucking layaway then. You just looked them in the eye and said, "Dog, put that away. I'll be here Sunday. If you're not here Sunday by 1, I'll sell it." And he'd sell it. Things from fucking England.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
How has, or do you think that world still exists? Because now with digital, like people just go online and buy it. Like, does that even still exist to go to a store and find that CD?
I find that people usually download stuff that they will never buy anyways. If you're going to buy something, it's because you're a collector and your heart is into it, so you're going to buy it. I talk to a lot of kids, and they say, I download it because I want to see what it's all about, and they're really not into it. They're kids; they didn't grow up with that music. They're stealing music that they didn't grow up with, so they don't have any emotional connection with it. To them, it's just like, let me check this out. It's like us listening to the radio, and they will not buy it anyways.
But even if they are buying it on iTunes, like it's not like going to that record store and just, what is this record?
Well, first of all, it's a digital download. It's never going to sound as good as an actual LP is with the right equipment, So yeah, there's pros and cons about it. I mean, of course, we've gotten used to hearing certain things. Like I have a couple of phonograph systems at home. LP play. The last time that I played a record, I can't even remember the last time I played an
Do you
actual
have albums at the house?
Yeah, I
You've
still
never
do.
taken one out and put it out?
No.
Well, let me tell you the flip side of that. The flip side of it, as a fan, as a real fan, as a fucking fan of the music, there's nothing like going home, putting the album on, and reading that album. To me, that was an hour of my day with tears in my eyes the whole fucking time. I'd be listening to that album, reading the cover, thank you to the Cheritons. I didn't give a fuck. I knew the recording engineers, I knew the tour managers, because there was nothing like opening up an album and taking the poster out. And it was David Lee Roth on Van Halen 2, and I ripped it up. That cocksucker, it was chained like that. I didn't like it. But the point is that there was something about that. When I download, Whitesnake on my iPod, that's it. That's it. The mysticism, the whole thing about the music, to be strictly honest with you, I bought Sabotage next to the Wing Fung Chinese restaurant. Used to have a little music store in North Bergen, New Jersey. And I remember that you couldn't wait to get home with this fucking album. And let me tell you something. You had a better chance of stabbing my mother in the neck than taking this fucking album from me, or than looking at this album. Because while it had the paper on it, nobody was going to look at this fucking album. Let me see it. No, there's nothing to see. No way I know. You don't got to see nothing here. Come over later after I listen to it. I'm going to look at this album first. You take it home. There was nothing like taking that album out, putting it on, and if it was a thing, that album, you rolled a joint in there. People say that today they still go to old album places and they open it up and they see seeds and albums and shit. Because that's what you did. You cleaned your seeds out. The seeds would roll. And then you'd roll your joint, you'd smoke it, and you'd read the fucking album. And you listen to the album 2 or 3 times. Then you went out and talked shit about the album. There was no internet to fucking go on and say Rudy's album is good or it's tremendous. There was no commercials in the 70s that said get white. No. It was word of mouth. You went to the basketball court. Dog, I got the new fucking Rainbow album. Oh shit. I gotta borrow it. You ain't borrowing shit, bitch. Stop being so cheap. Go buy a fucking album. That's how it was. They've removed that. Even if I buy your fucking DVD, I open it up and it's a sheet of paper.
They don't even have that anymore.
No, I want to see something. Read me something. Give me the lyrics to the song. Give me something. I tell people that the whole, if you open up In Through the Outdoor, Led Zeppelin's last album, you take the album out, the fucking sleeve, you get a sponge, you wet the sponge, then you squeeze that sponge, and you go like that, and all of a sudden the pills and everything will pop up to life. They're all different colors. they did things to make you. If you open up some
Yeah, and there were
girls,
like 4 different versions.
4 different versions.
Yeah.
If you opened up
Yeah.
some girls was brilliant.
Yeah.
By the Stones,
Yeah.
because you moved the heads.
Yeah.
So there was all these advertising for wigs, and you moved the faces of the Stones.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin 3 was a thing. You spun around inside the album.
Yeah.
How much would an album cost back then?
$7.99.
Okay.
$8.99. This fucking $20 million. That's unheard of. It was about the fans. It was about them. It was about everybody made a little bit of fucking money. Everybody made a little bit of money. Everybody was fucking happy.
Well, record companies made a lot of
money.
A lot of money.
I spent $20 for him and Ozzy Osbourne. $25 at the Palladium.
For a ticket?
I paid
Wow.
$15.50 for Pink Floyd The Wall in 1980 at Nassau Coliseum. Why would I give you $250 and go to fucking the Hollywood Bowl to sit there like a mutt? When people would kill themselves, when people were fans of the music. Fans. I mean, when you're on stage, you fucking cried. You fucking cried. You were like, God damn, I'm here. That's what it was like. I don't see that anymore when I'm not young anymore.
You know the only place I see that, and I'm not a fan of the music, but like you know those like boy bands like One Direction and like how those like young girls are with like those kind of bands. So is that kind of good? I mean, in a way.
Nah, it's you're talking about the Beatles with chicks that jumping up and down and yelling and fainting. I'm talking about guys going to see. You know, at the end of Almost Famous, when she goes off on the fucking kid, she goes off on the guy. Mm-hmm. She says a beautiful fucking speech about the fans. It was about the fucking fans, man. It was a beautiful thing. When you went to these shows, it was the biggest thing in my... Going to see you at the Palladium was the biggest thing in my world. When I found out you were Cuban, you gave me hope, man. I knew I could do something in my life. I didn't have to stab people or sell nickel bags in Union City, you know?
You know, I've been a fan longer than I've been a professional musician. And there will come a day that I will stop being a professional musician because, you know, I'll be too freaking old to be doing this. But I can guarantee you, I'll never stop being a fan.
I'm a fan.
You know,
I can't believe it.
I couldn't be a musician if I was not a fan. It would be impossible. How can you be a musician if you're not a fan of what you risk everything in life for?
When I go see a band and I listen to songs, I'm watching them, I'm thinking about all the effort it went to put. And that's how I felt when I was 15.
It's a lot of effort, yeah.
When I was 15, I knew the effort that it took to do that because I wasn't doing it. I tried singing in the shower when I failed. Never mind. I knew the effort. I don't know why. I knew
not only the effort, but look at the sacrifices. Because you know, I'm not making stuff up here. I'll give you an example. Black Sabbath, and I'm going to give you information that came down to me from Ozzy. You know, stuff that we sit around in the bus talking about. You know, they were kids. They were kids who. One day they went to a theater, saw a scary movie, and figured out, hey, if we can make music that is scary as what the movie that we saw, we're onto something. So they went from being called Earth, yeah, to being called Black Sabbath. That was like, okay, we're going to be scary. So they started creating scary music and scary themes. They were still kids out of Birmingham in England. They were trying to find a way how to get out of that. Not have to be in the factory. You know how Tony Iommi lost his finger? This is what Ozzy told me. He was working with at a factory with his dad. It was one of those press machines. It jumped his finger, off, and his father took him to emergency. And the doctor said, "Listen, I can attach the finger." And the father said, "How long would that take to heal?" And he said, "Well, it's going to be a few weeks." And his father said, "How about if we just leave it off?" And he said, "Oh yeah, he can go back to work immediately." That was the deciding factor of him not having the full finger and having to have a little plastic thing. But then again, it changed the sound of music. He would have never sounded the same with the full hand. You know what I mean? It just changed everything. So out of that came this new sound, this Black Sabbath sound. You know, he played it a different way, and we started connecting emotionally with it, right? Meanwhile, these guys were the manager that they had in those days, they never saw any money. They just would put him on the road.
Arden.
No, this before Don.
Wow.
This way the original guy before Don. it's just like if let's say if you were Ozzy and you went to the office and said, hey, listen, I haven't seen any money, we just got off the road. The guy would open the drawer, pull out some keys, and says, yeah, you see the Cadillac? Yeah, it's yours. Now, they weren't aware that they were already paying for that Cadillac anyways, but that was kind of like, okay, well, I got something out of it, and the guy would just leave. Meanwhile, all these guys were making money that the musicians never saw, and they just kept them on the road, kept them. I've worked with some people in the industry that they make you think that you're working for management. No, the band hires the manager. The manager, the band at any time say, listen, you guys take a hike. There's going to be some contracts and some certain things that you're going to owe them, just like in any industry, whether if you're a comedian or an actor, you have a certain management agreement, and the guy is taking you so far in your career, and then you disconnect from that person, but that still you owe them, some royalties or whatever. It's the same thing in music. But in music, they always made you feel like, oh, you guys are nothing with us managers, which was not the case. So they always kept things away from you. They never allowed you to hang out with the record company people. If they, by them, you and the record company people, no. They had to be there to make sure that they were the buffer. They were the filter for you to get to the record company, because if they figure, if you realize that you really don't need these guys, they're done. They don't have a job. So they always make it look like, oh yeah, well, we're gonna keep you guys on the road. Do you need anything, like some pot, some cocaine? Okay, I'll send you some on the road. And that's how bands were treated back then, before they got smart. Nowadays, it's very rare that you see that happen to any band.
Well, when you are a musician, the ego is built by money. Sting didn't fucking get up and leave one day. When they were three little dirty kids playing music, everybody was in love. It's when money gets involved that it breaks up bands. And when you're just a kid, you're just excited to be playing Rudy Sarzo in front of people in the garage. Who the fuck are you kidding? If I give you $10 in a joint, really? And I gave you a bed, that's a lot better than you were doing at home. So, I just want to do, when I first started doing comedy, I just want to do comedy. When I hate comedy? Now, when I got to deal with money. I wish I didn't have to deal with money. I would love comedy. That's when this is great. It's when money starts coming in that people, egos, attitudes get shitty. What the fuck, I just watched that documentary again about the Eagles. They went to them one day and said, this is us three, we're making all the money, and you're sitting at home and you don't get no money. I can't see that either. Us five guys, we're a band, but you're not giving me all the money. And I wrote the fucking riff to Hotel California. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm a paid salary. So that's one thing that's complicated about the band. That I would have shot everybody in the band. Now I know why,
Yeah.
It's tough. That's tough. The money thing is very tough.
Yeah, and it's the manager's job, or whoever is in charge of being the counselor for the musicians. Where it could be a lawyer, because a lot of bands actually have a lawyer, and rather than to have a management that they have to give them a commission, it's up to these individuals to be the clear heads, because clear heads will prevail in a situation like that. Rarely do you see it happen. Rarely the powers that be side with whoever has the most power within the band, whether it's the guy who wrote the songs or the guy who is the most popular, has the biggest fan base, or anything like that. Rarely do you see somebody coming in and saying, listen guys, let's sit down and make this and work this out. Because once, to be honest with you, in certain situations I've tried to be that guy, and with not much success, but at least I knew that I couldn't go to sleep if I just let it fall apart without me trying to be reasonable and say, listen, why don't we work this out? And of course it did not get worked out, but nevertheless, it's people like that really make a difference. Because again, thinking of the fan, as a fan, if I grew up with certain bands and once they start changing the personnel, the band members, it wasn't the same band anymore. I wasn't into the band anymore, because it was kind of like, I grew up with lifers in teams, like Mickey Mantle was a Yankee his whole life, Bobby Richardson, all these guys, Tony Kubik. It wasn't like they were with the Yankees today and then they were with Boston the next year and stuff like that. I truly believe in people who are members of a group for for their entire career. And this is coming from a guy who's played with many bands. But it was never my intention to do that. It's just happened. But ideally, yeah, I would have rather been with just one band. Of course. I didn't have any aspirations of moving forward or, moving on to something else when I first started doing this. No, of course not. I've been married for over 33 years now. 31 years. So I wish I would have had the same type of music career, for life.
Same married. 5 guys.
Same 5 guys. Or let's say somebody passes on, like it happened with Brian Jones, even though Brian Jones was out of the band, by the time, and then he passed away. But, things like that, just the same 5 guys, 4 guys, whatever, And, that was my intention.
I think about a band like Led Zeppelin, who had 9 albums. These are guys that were, they had problems. They had drug problems. The singer lost a kid. There were problems there. How many bands today do you see with 9 albums?
None. I don't know.
How many? How many fucking bands? Bad Company had a couple albums too, 7 or 8 albums.
Yeah.
You don't see bands like that no more. The Beatles had 90 fucking albums. I mean, yeah, Tony Bennett's got 60 albums, but he's by himself.
Yeah.
Every once in a while he duets with Lady Gaga or some shit. But besides that, I've always been a fan of bands and music and what comes along. Like I said, I would be that guy that just rolls joints on the fucking tour, like when the Stones did something in Jamaica or something, just to see the process. Do you write your own music, Rudy?
Yeah, I do.
And how is the process from A to the album? I mean, how does that work? It's you by yourself?
Well, it's a matter of writing the music and then convincing everybody else that that it should go on the record, which is the toughest part of them all. Yeah, because if you're not the singer is going to gravitate towards the music that they write, because it just makes sense. It's like telling a singer sing this melody is like a singer telling me play this bass part. You know what I mean? So you're getting into their territory. So the best thing, the second best thing you can do is to actually collaborate with the guys or the singer, because again, you're going to have vocals and you're going to have melody, vocal melodies and lyrics in the song. So if you can actually collaborate with the singer and let him come up with whatever he feels comfortable, or the message that they're going to deliver, then you're on the right track.
Is that like the hardest part, do you think? Because I know I used to be an editor on TV, and I hated, even though you can't really admit it because it's part of being professional, but I hated when I would come up with something and then a producer would come in and say, "Oh, I don't like that." So let's say you were pitching your song and they wanted to change it or they didn't like it. That feeling must be terrible. It's like the worst. I would imagine it's the worst.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you have to just leave your ego out and just what's best for the big picture, no matter how screwed up the big picture might be. You just go with a lot of times you have to go with the flow, of the individuals, and it's tough. It's tough. It's like imagine you trying to what you're going to be doing tomorrow night, 3 other guys, and you're going to talk to them into like, okay, this joke, that joke, you tell this other joke and you do it this way. Can you imagine that? It's a pain in the ass.
I was watching the James Brown
documentary
that's on this
brilliant.
Month. Did you watch it, Mr. Dynamite? With Mick Jagger when he talks
the
to
movie.
Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
No, not the movie. The one the documentary. It's playing now on HBO.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, you haven't seen it with Mick Jagger?
No.
And they told Mick Jagger that in 1965, Mick Jagger was watching James Brown on the sidelines. They were doing a show together.
Yeah.
And I guess the Stones were headlining it.
Yeah.
James Brown wanted to kill him because he wanted a headline.
Yeah.
He couldn't understand. They're like, it's a TV show. Don't worry about it. Yeah. But they said when James Brown went on the stage, that Mick Jagger was on the sidelines, traumatized and in shock.
Yeah.
And they showed. Did you see it?
I saw they had that
Oh,
scene
my-
in the
Yeah.
movie that just came out, and like
Yeah.
James Brown's like, follow that, welcome
Yeah.
to America.
Yeah, yeah.
He blew them off stage.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And
Yeah.
that's when Mick Jagger says that's bullshit. He goes, as a matter of fact, it was a different audience. They had came in and changed the sound.
Oh.
The band. It was bullshit. It was a complete different audience. I don't know why they said that. He goes, yes, his performance was. They showed it. If you watch the documentary, they showed the Stones,
Yeah.
and they showed James Brown, and James Brown just took it to a different fucking level altogether. And they showed Mick Jagger putting it together, but no, he didn't.
Well, I mean, you have James Brown, who's the real deal, and then you got a bunch of white kids from England who were influenced by James Brown and all the all the blues players and all of that. So you have like second generation. So, but just like Elvis and all the other white artists they could actually relate to the white kids better than an Afro-American musician could.
Even though those African American musicians were brilliant.
Oh, they were the best.
Brilliant.
The
The
best.
best.
The best. Nothing came close.
Nothing.
No.
Well,
It's the real deal.
Listen, David Ruffin from the Temptations, to me,
Yeah.
has one of the greatest voices of all time. The problem with him was drugs, too, and he was fucking crazy. But the Temptations, and they were all from Jersey. Like, they were all, like, if you really look into it, all those labels, all those kids were from Jersey. And I heard those songs, and I forget the one, This Magic Moment, that guy's voice. I don't know who sang that.
Oh, Jay and the Americans. Jay Black. Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me? That is just, are they black?
Well, the only thing black about him is his last name.
His last name. Tony Bennett, cocksucker. We do this every Monday. It's my mother's favorite song when they came from Cuba. What's up, cocksucker?
Nothing.
Let me give some shout outs here. My man, like I said, Greg and Lynn, thank you very much coming to the show and giving me the envelope. They're going to mail something for you, Lee. They had something for you. And
Oh,
Lisa,
thank you.
again, thank you very much for the special gift from my daughter. Nathan, James Turner, I love you, cocksucker. Ahmad Alamed, stay black. Mitchell Convey, Derek Jewell, Cleo, happy birthday. You know we love you here. Mr. Whiskey, you're a bad motherfucker. Amy, XPDJ, I love you, buddy. Brandy Lynn, hang in there, you dirty bitch. Now, what's the Project Rock? Talk to me about Project Rock.
Oh, Project Rock. It's well, now it's being rebranded something else, but it was just basically a bunch of friends, guys that I play with, that I know from other bands like Tim Ripper Owens. He was in Judas Priest when Alfred was out of the band. As a matter of fact, they that movie Rockstar. It
Yeah.
was based on his story. He did an interview with some journalist in some magazine, and somebody took the story of him being just a kid that replaced this superstar, Rob Halford, from Judas Priest, and for all of a sudden he went from a tribute band to actually being in the real band, and they made a movie out of that story. So, but he's an incredible singer, and then guys like Teddy Zigzag, who play with Guns N' Roses. Keyboard player, and James Kotak, drummer from Scorpions, and Kerry Kelly, who played with Alice Cooper. And we would just go to Russia, deep into Russia, Siberia, Kamchatka, whatever, not what's considered San Francisco and L.A., which is St. Petersburg and Moscow. We really went in deep in there, and just bring music to the fans. These are. We're talking about what? It's been 25 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall, and this is a whole different Russia. Forget about Putin and all the conflicts going on, politically. Let's talk about the people. People are just fantastic, and they love American music, and they love rock and roll. And one of the reason why they love it is because it was the music that they were not allowed to watch there were no rock performers during the Cold War or music. It was all clandestine. You have to go in a basement, listen to the music with your headphones and all of that. You made sacrifices. A lot of people went to jail, went to Siberia because of embracing American music. And one of the things that I found that was really interesting was, I noticed this because being from Cuba, I was exposed to Afro-Cuban music, Afro being the key word. Then when I came to the United States, I started listening to blues. Then I was exposed to African blues, where it comes from. And I'm going, my goodness, this music, Latin music and blues come from the same place, Africa, and they brought here through, the slaves. I don't know, it's a terrible period, in history, but that's how we got our American music, through that. One of the things you have to take into consideration is that the slaves in the Caribbean were allowed to play their percussion instruments because they were in Spanish plantations, whereas the plantations in the United States outside of Louisiana, which was French, they were not allowed to use their percussion instruments. So they, as a way to survive their sacrifice, the hardships of working in the fields, they would sing, And if you listen to traditional Cuban music and the blues, it's all 1-4-5 progressions. It's the same format. And I'm looking at it and saying, wow, how rich are the music of the United States is, that came out of this terrible times in our history, through slavery. And I think about not only that but us as individuals, when we go through bad times, if you look at a diamond, it's because it's being compressed. We get our lives become compressed, and the ones that can actually survive that compression, we, at the end of it, we come up like diamonds. So if you listen to American music, you listen to the blues, you listen to jazz, all of that, it was a culture, a people that were compressed. Their lives were so hard that at the end of it, the diamond that came out was actually music, American music. It's the most true form of American music that there is: jazz, rock and roll, blues, R&B, gospel. The soulful gospel that we know. Where singers such as Aretha Franklin came from, and so on. And this is something that the rest of the world does not have in common with us. If you go to Russia, there's no African artists that have that influence in them. You know what I mean? It's not part of their culture. So when they listen to the blues, they're hearing something that, yes, it's about hope and faith, because that's what was happening in the fields when they were working, under such conditions, the hope and the faith that someday all of this was going to end and they were going to lead better lives. That is universal. And you can hear it in the music, and you can hear it even really in the music, in the notes that are being played, all the pentatonic blues, scales and riffs and everything that comes through that music. And when you take that to a country such as Russia that had their own period of hope and faith through music to be able to survive their lives, they connect with it in a way that even most of Americans today cannot connect with. Because right now we're connecting with electronic music created by computers. That's our reference. That's our connection. We are losing soul. We're losing our connection with our heart and our soul, and our spirituality even. Because this is, if you listen to blues and jazz, it's very spiritual music, because that's where it came from, spirituality. So then again, going back to Russia, one of the things that I learned from traveling there is that all of these dictators, communist dictators they were smart enough not to interfere with their faith. They knew that they could not fight God. So they turned like a blind eye to it, and they just let them keep their churches and keep their faith. And so when you travel through all these little towns, the most beautiful, ornate buildings, well kept, is the actual church, the local church. They're very spiritual people. It reminds me of Cubans. It's like this very tight knit culture. People really relate to each other. They help each other out, and they're very communicative with each other.
You blew my mind. Sometimes people blow my mind. You blow my mind with that one.
You just brought it up. What is your position on electronic music, like sampling and all that that's going on right now?
Any form of expression. It's. I mean, if a human being can come out with making music with farts, and it sells and people go for it, I'm not going to judge that. But to me, what really moves me, what really touches, what makes the hairs on my arm, stand, it's when it touches my soul. And so far, electronic music doesn't do that to me. But then again, you're talking about events. EDM, they're very popular with the type of people who are looking after a certain experience. And most of them happens to be, they're induced by some kind of chemical. It is what it is. I'm not making this up, and ecstasy or whatever. So it is an event. It's a social, cultural event. And, to be honest with you, if I would have known 40 years ago that I could actually get a laptop and go up there and make millions of dollars, the hell with playing the bass.
That's a good way of looking at it. I don't even know what electronic music is.
Well, from
If
what
you know that, how bad am I? How bad am I, people? I'm sorry. I just don't even know what it is. I don't know what it sounds like. I don't know if it sounds the same.
I think there's a difference, because I know Russell Peters gets mad about it. There's a difference between some people go and grab old records and get loops and create music with actual old music. But then I think some of these other electronic music people are just like solely with their computer. They're not going and actually finding the loops and it's kind of like what you were talking about when you were talking about the engineers and the ones who really know what they're doing. That I really like that, because I'm a very techie person, and I would love to go see an old engineer in the old studio, not with a computer, but with like the actual analog material, who actually knows what he's doing. So like a great DJ who can go and pick up a record and mix it together and make it sound really awesome. I like that. But then again, I understand like the dislike of just going on the computer and basically mashing it together.
Yeah, and there's a sort of an art to that. It basically, because music, it's supposed to move you. It's supposed to affect you, emotionally, and put you in a certain state. And if electronic music can do that to a human being, there you go. That's the individual has accomplished that. What's missing to me in electronic, EDM, electronic dance music, it's the message. And I think since there is no message, the individual can create their own message rather than to hear a song and even there might be certain metaphors, I mean, I know that there's writers that don't realize what their song is about, but there is a message in there that becomes your message. But then when music is delivered that intentionally there is no message whatsoever, then you're forced to create it yourself. And this, to me, is what EDM does. It's you fill in the blanks as a human being. How is this music touching you? What are you getting out of it? How's it making you feel, which is the most important thing about music. Especially if you're under ecstasy. Those events are huge. They're like 100,000 people,
when that stuff came up, I was a little older, long in the tooth. I would go to more concerts now. Like last week, Ray Canella My friend came from Jersey. I had a band with him in the 6th grade. We had a band. We played the Beatles' Help from beginning to end. That's all we did. We lip synced.
Yeah.
And then we went loose. You know, we do a Janet Jackson. We'd start off with the album, and then we played live. And he went to see Judas Priest the other night. I called him the next day, how were they? And he loved them. He loved the new guitarist. He loved the KK Glenn Tipton. I think KK's gone. Yeah. And he said Halford sounded great, the whole thing. And I love all that stuff. And it's weird that I would go to that every other night. But it's such a fucking pain in the ass, Rudy.
Yeah.
You know, I think when I was a kid, it was easier. When I was younger, I would take the train and you drank some beers.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, the importance of that. And I had an experience recently. Back in 1983, Quiet Riot opened up for Judas Priest in England. So I got to watch them every single night. Spectacular.
Yeah.
Then you forget. Life goes on, And then recently, the whole band, Judas Priest, did a rock and roll fantasy camp. And Halford, he had just had some back surgery and stuff like that, so he was taking it easy. I gotta tell you, when these guys, the real deal, opened their mouth, and we were just talking about James Brown, well, Rob Halford in the metal world, he is the real deal.
The real deal, yeah.
When he opened his mouth and he sing, he's like, I don't care who's in a tribute band, who's doing this and that. It is only one Rob Halford. And there's something about it, everything. Yeah, let me rephrase that. It's not something. Everything about his singing, his voice, is the real deal. And he does stuff that you have never heard or probably might never hear anybody else do. It's so... he's like nobody else. And what's going to happen is someday, hopefully not soon, but eventually, just like many other voices, like I've worked with, Ronnie James Dio, another incredible voice, one of a kind, they're no longer with us. Maybe because he's still alive, but he cannot perform anymore, or decides not to perform anymore. So to me, anytime that any of these artists, the real deal, comes around,
you gotta go.
You gotta go. You gotta go, because it's not only might be the last time, but it's a reminder. You must remind yourself of what the real deal really is all about, what it sounds like, what it looks like. You have to hear it for yourself right there in person.
I've heard a lot of comedians say they don't like going to see other comedians because they don't want to get influenced and steal a joke, or by mistake copy a joke, or just be influenced. Do you still go see music?
I'm a fan. I must.
And it doesn't really seem like it's that big of an issue in music to be influenced by other musicians. It seems like everybody is, and they don't consider it's not as bad as like joke stealing. You
should be influenced by everybody. Absolutely, everybody has something that's so unique about them. Truly, if you're dealing, especially the real deal guys. Yeah, I mean, guys that might not even be known for like being fast or whatever or heavy. Oh boy, yeah. Maybe it's the groove, the pocket. You have to have a groove to your playing. Otherwise there's bullshit.
Steve Avillo, a dear friend of mine, put Children of the Grave on my Facebook page the other night from 1974 at the California Jam.
I was listening to it this morning.
What is the name of it?
Children of the Grave, 1974 California Jam. First of all, Ozzy Osbourne was Ozzy. It was John Osbourne.
Yeah.
That's when he was.
I was actually watching the video this morning.
Oh my God!
Because somebody posted it. That's what happened.
Steve Avillo posted it. And my buddy from Jersey posted it. And I sat and watched that, and I was fucking blown the fuck away. It's 1974. No high-level technology shit. This is just four fucking guys. How fucking crazy was Geezer?
It's like the daytime too.
Yeah, that's when they did concerts. California Jam. Look at the people, the amount of people. What do you clock it at? How many people are there?
It's like a whole. It looks like Woodstock.
How about 200,000?
Ontario?
Yeah.
Ontario, California.
And we did the US Festival in '83. That was 350,000. So that must have been about 175, 200. Yeah.
Just amazing. And then they have another one of them doing something on Don Kirshner's rock concert, a midnight special.
Yeah.
Them, Black Sabbath. And there's two guys with matching shirts just losing their fucking head. It's mine. I love all that stuff.
So it's called Black Sabbath, Children of the Grave, 1974 California Jam.
But then again, when Black Sabbath came around last year, I went to see them at the Sportatorium.
How were they?
The real deal again. They were actually. I thought they were better than I've ever seen Ozzy and the guys, because I play with Ozzy, and then about the following year with Quiet Riot, we opened up for Black Sabbath on their Unborn. Was that the 1983? They had the little devil on Born Again with Ian Gillan on vocals. Yeah.
Did you go see them? You went to see them this last time?
Yeah, phenomenal.
Everybody said they were phenomenal.
Just phenomenal.
Everybody
phenomenal. Better than I've ever seen them.
Everybody talks about John Gotti, and I think the baddest motherfucking guinea ever is Tony Iommi. I say I love him. I love him. Let me read the sponsors and we'll get you the hell out of here. Listen, man, it's always the problem with you. I don't have 10 hours. I wish I had 10 hours, because I consider you the real deal. You're the fucking.
You too, my friend.
Savage. Yeah, that was
mi hermano.
Mi hermano and shit. And it's crazy that we have, the Cuban thing between us, because I love it. It makes me. And today I went to jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And I get in, and some kid comes right over, and he goes, "¿Cómo está mi hermano? Duro feble." And I go, "You have Feebles? That's like a weird Cuban name." Yeah. I go, "You have family in Denver?" And he goes, "Yeah." "How'd you know?" I go, "I hang out with Danny." He goes, "Oh my God, my uncle's got cancer." We started talking. And more, he goes, "I listened to the podcast." And then he's a fireman, we talked, and on the way out, he gave me a Dick Van Dyke book. He knows that I learned how to speak English when I came from Cuba, watching Dick Van Dyke. Yeah. That was my show. That's how I learned to speak English. Yeah. And he gave me the book, and he goes, "This is for you, for all the excitement you bring me on the podcast." Wow. He goes, "One of the things I was coming to see was you do jiu-jitsu." He goes, "So I brought my suit, just hopefully you were here," and you came. And I just felt good. We were talking Spanish for a couple of minutes. I got the Cuban pulled out of me when my mom died. Yeah. And I didn't have it again. I didn't have it again for like 5 years, and now I'm way deep in it again. I'm way deeper than I am. And my uncle called last night, my uncle that did the podcast for us. He's 76. And he goes, "I've made up my fucking mind." But he said all this in Spanish. "Ya se acabó. I'm taking you, your wife, the kid, my daughter, the boys, everybody. We're going to Cuba next summer." He goes, "Get your passport in order." So now I got to get my passport in order, at least to go to Cuba. They won't let me go to Canada. But I got to go. We're going to go as a family. We're going to go as one big fucking. We're taking a Jew with us, too. What do you think? You think he'd come back? If he went crazy over that, croqueta.
There were a lot of Los Polacos. That's where the Jewish community was in Cuba. Los Polacos, Los Polacos. Yeah. They arrived in Havana, from World War II, running away from Hitler, Poland,
There you go, bro.
Yeah.
Really? There's some Jews in Cuba?
You kidding?
Shit.
Wow.
If you go to South Beach, there's like
South Beach.
temples everywhere. Cuban Jewish temples. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you might have to go down there with us, dog. We're going to Cuba.
I'm down.
We're going.
First podcast ever from Cuba.
First podcast ever from Cuba. Have you been, Rudy? And you don't ever want to?
Let's see. I checked this morning. We're still a communist country, so no.
So you won't go even to perform like these people? No. Fuck
it. My mom and dad
never went back.
They went back to visit my grandmother and never went back. But it's they sacrificed so much to bring my brother and me over here. So they'll always express their. Not us wanting to go back, my brother and me. So I respect their wishes. Yeah.
How's your brother doing?
He's doing good.
You and your brother in a band now for the first time?
Well, we did. We toured when with this Jeff Tate Queensryche, and it was fun. A lot of fun. We hadn't toured together. Actually, we had never toured together. We played together in Miami a lot, and then later on in New Jersey. But we had never been in a national touring band before. Or international, because we actually got to play in Brazil, and so it was definitely a lot of fun.
And you're in the next tour with Queensryche, with Jeff Tate.
Yeah. I mean, it's being rebranded as Operation Mindcrime. So
Okay.
So I'm not. I don't have the timeline of what things are going to be happening in the near future, but yeah.
Do you still sing Silent Liquidity? Or you're not allowed to sing that one?
Who? Jeff?
The new band, yeah. I know
Oh
that.
yeah, it's a beautiful song, and it's
Okay, so we could do
Yeah.
it. Okay, because I
Oh
thought
yeah.
I thought they had the same Pink Floyd thing going on. Like Jeff Tate's Queen's right, can't do the old Queen. Whatever.
No. I think they have something to do with Operation Mindcrime, that he does Operation Mindcrime and Empire or something, and whatever. I stay out of.
You just don't give a fuck. You're like me. You just show up.
No, because it has nothing to do
Do
with
with me, right? Yeah.
Nothing at all.
I always tell Lee asked me a question. I don't know because I don't even get involved. I just know this.
Yeah, I mean,
keep
if
it simple.
If it had to do with me, yes, I would get involved, but it has nothing to do with me.
You're a fucking great guy, man. I love just having you around. You ate the croqueta, went to Mambo, we picked up some Cuban
Empanadas
food. Did you like them?
El picadillo estaba excelente.
I like it too. I like the picadillo from them. I'm telling you. My wife got the shredded beef.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was okay, but it wasn't my mother's. My mother's really doped it up with the olives and shit. But this picadillo is okay.
Pasita.
Pasita, the raisins. Oh my god! My mom used to make that picadillo dish, which is chopped meat, basically. It's sloppy Joe for Cubans. It's a sloppy Joe, but she boiled the fries, the little potatoes, and then fry them with. Oh my god! In the meat with olives, stop and a couple raisins with some white rice. Stop and a fucking mateba. I almost brought you a mateba. And Iron
What's that?
That's a Cuban soda. Mateba's a Cuban soda, and Iron Beer is the other one. Have you had Iron Beer?
I haven't had it, but I've seen it.
He's seen it at the house. The guy with the muscle and shit.
Iron Bed.
Iron Beer. You don't bet.
Iron Bed. Yeah.
We were talking about all those Cuban words like Nietzsche. Nietzsche means a black dude, but now you can't say it no more. But Nietzsche's even called themselves Nietzsche's. In Cuba, it was wide open. They called themselves Nietzsche's. So
And you call them like China, like all the Chinese
Chino
people?
is Chinese. Whether they're Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, Cambodian, they all fall into the one Cuban thing. Chino. Es una China, compadre. Papa, it's Chino. Whatever. And if they're Arabs, no matter what, Arabeki. Whether they're from Turkey or whatever, son Arabeki, compadre, Arabeki. That's just the way it is. Let me give a shout out to my main motherfuckers over on it, making it happen to you. I've been getting a lot of twits lately from people ordering on it. They really enjoy the Alpha brand. The Alpha brand, I always tell you, it's like going to a Chinese restaurant. The pork fried rice sucks. You got no business being there. That's their signature product, the Alpha brand. It gives you focus. It helps you maintain your fucking awareness. And it's got 100% money back guarantee. That's how it starts with On It. Go to On It. Go to joeydiaz.net. Go to the On It Box and Press.
Church.
And get 10% off your first order. They have the Stay On It program. Whether you want the Hemp Force, whether you want the Shroom Tech,
New Mood.
Sport, the New Mood. They got the new MCI coconut for your smoothies. Trust me, I wouldn't fuck around. You're going to start a new resolution this year. Start it now with On It. Go to onit.com and press.
Church.
And get your 10% off. And they got the Stay On It program. I also want to welcome my main motherfuckers. I love them to death. IronDragonTV.com. Okay, for all your classic kung fu movies, all the Ip Mans, the Tai Chi Zeros. What the fuck is this? The classic life, Enter the Fat Dragon, Life of a Ninja. This company is owned by Nanotech, where they sponsor fighters. They sponsor Tim Kennedy and Michael McDonald. Dave Foley's a great guy. We had lunch and dinner, and I really like what he's doing. He's got a great program over there, but it all starts. Just do me a favor. Go to IronDragonTV.com right now. Press either Joey or Church in the Box and get 2 free rentals to start off. It's Roku TV, correct?
It's Roku. So it's any of the Rokus. They have channels now. So this one focuses on martial arts. So just search Iron Dragon TV. It pops right up, and you put in the code word to get 2 free rentals.
All right, and with that, you see what I'm smoking? It's a cigar. It tastes great. Does it smell, Rudy?
No.
Did you smell it? This is what I'm talking about. This is tremendous. You go to Vegas, you can blow smoke in the fucking 21 blackjack dealer's face. Go to Hit Eat Cigs. This is what they have. They have beautiful cigars. They have beautiful e-cigarettes. 0, 8, 16, and 24 nicotine milligrams. If you're thinking of quitting smoking for the new year, this is the way to do it. Hit Eat Cigs. I'm telling you right now. You get a 24, smoke it for a week and a half, then go to the 16, smoke that for a week and a half, smoke a few joints too, then you go to 8, then you go to 0, and BAM! You're not smoking fucking cigarettes no more, and you maintain with one of these. Who's better than you? They come in different flavors, but this is the baddest motherfucker they have, the cigar.
Is that electric cohiba?
It's an electric cohiba. They get the smoke from Fidel's bad breath and they put it in here and shit like that. Also to my main brother. What do you
Wait, use code word Joey's Church and you get 20% off.
get 20% off on Hitty Cigs. So use Joey's Church, get 20% off Hitty Cigs. Edward Gaba, they're doing a great job over there. Please support Hitty Cigs. You're gonna fucking love it. Also, Nailed It Life. If you like smoking vapor, best vapor pen in the market. Tremendous. They're gonna send me a script for something else. They just added something else to the webpage. Go to naileditlife.com. Go to the webpage, see what they got. They got t-shirts. They got the best vapor pen in the market. If you put in the box
Joey Diaz,
you get 20% off. So it's $50. You get it for $40. If anything happens, it breaks down, whatever, you call them, boom! The next day it's sent to your house. No fucking drama. That's the way. That's customer service at their best. David, don't fuck around. West New York, Cubans.
West New York.
West New York in the motherfucking house. Rudy Sarzo, I want you to I want to figure out how you get your schedule to me so we can put it up there so we can talk about you when the schedules come close to the United States. Maybe we can meet in the city and I
That
can
would be
take
awesome.
you for Cuban
Yeah.
food in Minnesota. They got good Cuban food. You get to Miami much?
I was just there about a month ago.
Tremendous, isn't it?
Yeah, just to see my folks,
Tremendous.
It's great.
I went 3 weeks ago, but I watched the other night in the hotel room. I watched Anthony Bourdain layover in Miami. Oh shit, Rudy. He went to some tremendous places, but he talked to the most interesting. He talked to some Cuban fishermen that were Cuban, and after the revolution, they came up here and they continued to do the same thing. So all their buddies, their Cuban buddies, they just fish all day and bring the same fish to the same restaurant. And whatever they have, like some days they have pago, some days they were saying all the fish names in Spanish. I was getting goosebumps. I love all that stuff. Last time I went to Miami, I realized something, Rudy, that, and you can't because of what we do. But if you're Spanish at one point, you got to live in Miami for a month or two. It was different. I know some people don't like it. My mother didn't like it. My mother didn't want to be around a bunch of crying Cubans. She said, but this last time when I went, you pull over on the streets and they're drinking coffee and you go and they ask you if you want a cup. They invite you to a cup for a quarter, whatever it is. And I like that. I like that thing.
Yeah.
I like that thing. It's not Starbucks. In Starbucks, everybody's on their fucking computers who's trying to be the smartest one in the fucking room. In Miami, nobody was trying to be the smartest one in the room. They were just trying to coexist, man. And I hadn't been around that in a long time, and I really, really enjoyed it. So that's why.
I grew up there, and thank God, my mom and dad are still with us. But it's they're almost 90. There's that last generation. Even though I was born in Cuba, but we're talking about the last generation that actually left Cuba with their children and sacrificed everything that they had to give their children a better life, in freedom. Because after all, that's what we came here for. Everybody had jobs over there. It's just a matter of things got screwed up when communism came in and took everything away. So all the sacrifices, and it's that generation. And it's a bit sad because they never, like in my parents' case, they thought it was just going to be like, we're going to be here in Miami for a few months and then go back to Havana, because they left our place just like we were going up for the weekend. Everything stayed because we couldn't give any of our belongings to our relatives because, the Comité de Defensa, the defense committee people were like chivatear, they were like, tell us on us. And we basically had to sneak out of our house in order to get to the airport and get dressed in somebody else's place so that our neighbor didn't see us like, hey, what you, because back in the day you wore a suit when you flew, a suit and tie, and so all of this stuff, and then we get to the United States and it's going through the whole, the whole process of becoming Cuban refugees, even though we enter legally, passports and visas and sponsor and the whole bit. There's a lot of sacrifices, and I see that last generation not fulfilling their dream of going back to Cuba someday, because it's every day, it's like it ain't gonna happen, the only way for them to go back to Cuba would be to basically go back again under another communist country, still a communist country. So it is a bit sad for me to witness that their hopes and dreams of that generation are basically.
My sister's there.
Yeah.
I never really met my sister. I want to get that
Oh, in
out.
Cuba? Yeah.
She stayed. She
Yeah.
stayed with the grandmother and got married, and the rest
Yeah.
is fucking history. So
Yeah.
I want to do that. There's a couple of things I want to do. I know the situation. I know it's communist. What am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I might die tomorrow. I want to show my little daughter
Yeah.
what
Hey.
grandmother for the grave.
There's a side of me that
Part of it.
wants to
I
go,
wanna
wants to
see
really
it.
to
I
go.
wanna
The only
see
reason, only reason why I don't go is
Just to
because
your parents,
it's
yeah.
because of my parents. That's
someday
the only
I'll
reason. Anything else, I would really don't give a shit. You know, I just want to. I would do it for myself. You know, just to go back and see where I went to school, where I grew up, and you know, whatever.
I want to see the same streets my father walked.
Yeah.
I want to see the house where my
Well,
mother grew up. I want to see the school they went to.
Yeah.
You know, I want
Well, I see. I want to witness that for firsthand. I
Yeah.
want to go back to walk the streets that I walked when I was a child, and I left. I was almost 11 when I left, and I want to walk the same streets if still there, or the same school if the building's still there, because everything is falling apart. You know,
all I remember is an ocean, Rudy.
Malecón.
That's all I remember.
You remember-
If I close my eyes, I remember holding my mother's hands as a little boy, and that's all I remember. And then being in New Jersey.
Wow.
That's it. I remember. But if you talk to me about Cuba, I can't lie to you. I don't remember the streets. I don't remember what I ate. I remember a beach. I remember just looking out into the ocean. That's it. That's all I could remember. So
Wow.
I love you, Rudy, with all my
Love you
fucking
too,
heart,
Joey.
bro. I wish you.
Hermano, thank you
you're
for
the real
having
deal.
me.
Oh,
here,
please!
man.
I've been
Thank
thinking
you.
about you for
Thank
months,
you.
and somebody hit me up
Thank
saying,
you.
"When are you gonna have Rudy?" And then 2 or 3 people kept hitting me up. So I said, I gotta get a hold of Rudy. I know you're busy. I'm gonna be at Philly Helium this week, and then Lee, we're doing a workshop next Wednesday for a one-man show. We're doing sort of like a Testicle Testaments, me and Maj Jabrani. That's at the Ice House. We might do a podcast and mix it up a little bit. So that's basically it, guys. I love you guys. Again, support on it. IronDragonTV.com, HitEsigs.com, and Nailed It Life. And we'll be back tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, guys. Stay black. What do you got, Lee?
Do you have a website, Rudy, or Twitter, or anything people could?
Yeah, Twitter,
Contact
Rudy
you?
Sarzo, Twitter, Facebook. Tomorrow's my birthday, so if anybody wants to leave any message,
I'll leave a message tomorrow. brother. Happy birthday. I'm not even going to ask you how old you are. 29? 30,
for like
32?
the second time plus, I'll be 64.
God bless you, Rudy.
Yeah,
God
and
bless
next
you.
year
65.
I get Medicare.
You get Medicare, and you get 10% off at restaurants.
Well, I think I already do that.
Do you really?
Yeah, AAA. Yeah, AAA and the AARP. Yeah.
I love you, brother. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lee Syatt,
Thank
for
you,
doing
buddy.
this today early.
No, it's okay. And if you guys, I just started my first blog at leeside.com. If you went to check it out, I'd appreciate it. Show is brought to you by onit.com. Go to onit.com and use code word church to get 10% off of any of their great products like Strongbone, Alpha Brain, New Mood, Shroomtech Immune, Shroomtech Sport. That's code word church to get 10% off. Go to IronDragonTV.com. That's Iron Dragon TV. It's a new Roku channel with all of the great martial art movies, all of the kung fu movies like Ip Man, all of that. Use code word Joey or code word church, and you're gonna get 2 free rentals on the new Roku channel, Iron Dragon TV. Go to hitesigs.com. That's hit the letter E sigs.com for the best vapor pens on the market. Go to that's better tasting, longer lasting. The proof is in the vape. They have e-cigarettes and e-cigars for you. Different flavor e-cigarettes and different variations of nicotine in the e-cigars and in the e-cigs. Use code word Joey's Church to get 20% off. And go to naileditlife.com. That's naileditlife.com for the premier vapor pen on the market. Works with oil and wax. Use code word Joey Diaz, no spaces, and you're going to get 20% off your order.